Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener. That is going to be very shortly changing. Maybe not too shortly, but it will be changing sometime soon because we are going to be moving. We are not sure exactly where as yet. We have been looking at a certain area, and it's still going to be within Wyoming. We have looked around in possibly South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, Utah in some ways, and a couple of other places, but it looks like that we're going to be staying in Wyoming, frankly, because of freedom. And anyway, if you're noticing on my channel, there is a little thumbnail, and that thumbnail picture has changed. It usually has my picture on it or pictures of vegetables, and today it is basically a white background with a red X in it, and that is against cyberbullying. And if you follow the channel I believe it's Pure Living for Life, or you can look up the channel Pure Living for Life. It is in response to a video that they have put out, and they have went over some very disturbing things in regards to cyberbullying. Now, for myself, I have never had to deal with a whole lot of cyberbullying. There is a different virtual reality, I guess, that I have been in, or a different format that we sometimes talk about, Second Life. It is a program. Some people consider it a game, but it's actually not a game. It's a platform for people from all over the world to come together with avatars and interact with each other. So you can meet someone from Italy or Japan or China or Russia or just all across the world. So I have dealt a little bit with cyberbullying, but not in the YouTube realm and social media realm. A little bit with social media, but I've never been a huge social media presence, a little bit more so probably some years ago than I have been more lately, because I've been more aware of things that can happen with cyberbullying. Now, I am a member of a couple of groups on Facebook, which you have seen my Facebook channel, I believe, linked below, or Instagram channel, which kind of goes back to the same thing. And I've dealt a little bit with some cyberbullying there in a couple of different groups, because I am all about being able to promote free speech, being able to speak your mind and whatever you're thinking about. And those places, even though there are these two groups on Facebook that promote that same mentality, the reality is that the responses that you get from people is a mixed bag, all kinds of different responses, some that are more closed-minded than others. You would think if you're going into a group that is all about promoting free speech, that people would be open-minded, because it would basically demand that kind of mentality, that you be open-minded, because there's opinions from all over the place. And I am a member of several different groups on Facebook as well, in off-grid homesteading. I've even created my own homestead group called Wyoming Homestead, so you could check that out if you want to. But, there's situations where you come into social media, and I consider YouTube social media as well, that you deal with cyberbullying. And having the situation of where I have a partner that is a computer programmer and coder, I probably understand that a little bit more. If you're not as familiar with all of these different programs and technology, then sometimes you can just be blindsided by all of the ways that people can basically end up bullying you. And one of those things is VPN services. We see a lot on YouTube. There are advertisements across different channels, or just advertisements in general. If you're going to look, say, at a movie or something like that, and there are movies in YouTube, then you will see ads for VPN services. And one of the things that VPN services do is that they provide you a way to be able to look at something without putting your exact IP address on something. It changes your IP address to an IP address location wherever the VPN services are provided. So you may live in, say, Wyoming, and have a VPN service that gives you an IP address that's links you to somewhere in Germany. You just never know where the IP address could end up being. And IP addresses actually can change. It just depends on multiple different factors of what internet service you have, if you change internet services, if you change modems, if you change anything about your technology footprint, then you can actually have an IP address change. So it doesn't always stay the same. So you could end up being looking like that you're somewhere else. Anyway, that's how also scammers and people that are looking to cyberbully get away with cyberbullying, is that they use these VPN services. And a lot of times cyberbullies will say that they are in the United States or whatever country that you may be doing your YouTube channel from, or that you've commented from, and they will say that they're in the United States or wherever you're at, and they're not. They could be anywhere across the world. There are, unfortunately, places that build their entire business on being cyber trolls. So you can see a lot on YouTube if you're scrolling through comments and things like that on channels, that you just may see comments that are vicious, just completely nasty, sexual, all kinds of things. Or they could just be a link to something, or just words that don't make any sense. And those things can all be part of scamming and part of cyberbullying. Especially on, say, I haven't really had a whole lot of quote-unquote trolls or cyberbullying on my channel as yet, because my channel is still small. And that's why I wasn't even sure I wanted to make this video, is because my channel is still so very small that I haven't had a whole lot of that. I've had a little. I had my first experience with it probably early on, spring and summer of 2022. And I just had someone come through and put a bunch of dislikes on my videos. And I was at first a little hurt and a little unsure what to do. And then I found out from several different YouTubers that likes and dislikes really doesn't matter in the YouTube world. That both actually bring you more views. And to me, I never started my account, my YouTube channel, my persona in YouTube as being something that I was wanting to gain fame or notoriety or anything like that. I started my channel because it was, number one, a hobby for me to garden and to get back into it, and to teach others how to garden, especially in Wyoming, because Wyoming can be very challenging on growing here. And you have, in my experience, there have been a lot of master gardeners in the master gardening program in Wyoming that has quote-unquote experts that may not have taken into factors several things like microclimates and how your particular ground is, your soil is around your home or your homestead or your country home or city home. And my particular channel is for urban gardening. Now that is going to be changing when we're moving. We're going to be actually out in the country more, most likely outside of city limits. So that's one of the things that I look at with my channel. You know, going back into the cyberbullying, like I said, I've not experienced that very much. I've only had a little bit of it on my channel so far, and it's just been a whole bunch of dislikes that were made by someone and with no rhyme or reason. And then I've had a couple of links and comments that didn't make any sense, and I wasn't even sure. They weren't even really links. They were just these series of letters and dots. So I'm not really sure where that comes from, who is doing that, why they make a business on that, why it's even funny. That's another thing, is trolls and things like that. And we call them trolls, but they're actual people that are coming in and making comments on videos and things throughout YouTube, not just my channel or not just a handful of channels. There's throughout YouTube. I don't know why that they think it's so funny, or why they want to spend precious lifespan, because that is something my partner and I talk about quite often, is lifespan. And your life is so very short to begin with. Hopefully, if you get to live 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, that you can say you've had a long life, but that really in the span of time is not very long at all. So for me, live life to your fullest. Do as much as you can do within your life, as many diverse things as you can possibly do in your life. Continue learning, because if you're not learning anything new, then I would think that would be a very sad life. And you don't want to live a very sad life. We all live such a short life that we don't want to live miserably. But throughout your life, you may have miserable situations that pop up. So try to make what little bit of life that you have as fulfilled and as happy as you can. And I wouldn't imagine trolling someone just for getting a rise out of them, or a rise out of their other subscribers on their channel, or commenters on their channel. They could even be not subscribers to your channel. They just come in and look every so often. I wouldn't see why that would be such a funny, fantastic, amazing thing to do, because it's not. It makes the people that are putting the YouTube videos out, the creators, it makes them feel like crap. It makes the people that are following them, their subscribers, feel like crap. And they're having to sift through all of this crap that's in the comments. So why do that? Why make other people's lives difficult? But as my father said, there are some people out there in the world that live their lives in bitter misery, and they just want to make everyone else as bitter and as miserable as they possibly can. I don't know why that would make them feel better. You would hope that someone would want to feel better about their lives and doing better. And that's one of the things I've always done throughout my life, is try to rise up and do better and be better than what I was born into, because my life when I was little was not fantastic. I had pretty good parents, but in other ways, to other people, they may not have been so good. That's all perception. So anyway, I want to talk about that, the VPN services, and the fact that I do have a programmer and coder in the house, and I'm talking that he's been a programmer and a coder since the 60s. So he was one of the first, or not really the first, but one of the long-standing ones. So he started out in a company that has been around since the 60s, and he's still doing the same work. So he kind of knows what he's talking about. As far as your safety is concerned, I'm not really sure at this point in modern society how safe we can be, because there's privacy that has been broken here, there, and everywhere, and people want to talk about marketing things to people to protect their privacy, but then turn right around and you've got something else where your privacy is being taken away. So I'm not sure that there's any way to really be completely safe on the internet anymore, or not have your presence known. So I think that we all can just do the best that we can do in regards to that. For myself, I've always been very open book, that I don't really hide anything, that I've been very open on my channel. And I have had, this is not in regards to my channel per se, but it was in regards to the house that we live in, because the house that we live in is on the National Historical Registry. And it was built by a particular family. And we've had random people just show up at our house, knocking on the door, want to see the interior of the house, are touring the city and they want to see the interior of the house. But in a couple of different incidences, we've had people that were claiming to be relatives of the man who built the house, and we're not entirely certain that they were. And they've all been nice, but just a little bit too invasive, if you want to say that. They just want to just come in the house. They want to see this. They want to do that. And you have to be cautious about those kinds of things, of letting people just know what's in your house, number one, or opening the door to them. And see, I hate that, because in my life, I was born into a music family. My whole family is musical. They all were in a band. They traveled around all across the country, had opportunities that they could have went across the world, to be honest. And for me, we were always very open door policy, that we invited people into our house all the time. My parents would make big meals, feasts, have people come from all over the world. We had people from Germany, we had people from Scotland and England and Japan and China that would come to our home, and we would feed them. We would give them a place to stay for whatever time that they were there. We were always very inclusive with them going to different functions, events, music venues, concerts, all of that. We would just pile them into our vehicles, our vans, and we would take them with us. Or they would go to the recording studio and be with us when we would do different things in regards to recording or radio programs, just anything. So I've lived my entire life really in the public eye. So I've had a little bit of a different background in regards to that. So for me, it's been kind of difficult to wrap my head around someone breaching someone's privacy, then bullying them, making comments on a channel that really do not have a horse in the race or just to get a rise out of others. Excuse me. And for me, I'm not really sure I know a resolution to that. Right now I do an online program with a discussion where we have discussions on a weekly basis on a particular day. And one of those things that we say in regards to discussion when we put out our ads and our information for that discussion is that it's a discussion, it's a debate. There is no resolution. So just like I'm coming to you right now with a video explaining cyberbullying and how I'm against cyberbullying, at the same time I have to say that there is no resolution, because we can only give suggestions of how to protect your privacy and how to keep safe. And there's always going to be someone that thinks around that. So you just can try to be as safe as you can. Share as much as you want to, or that you feel is safe to share. Addresses and things like that, of course, are not safe to share. I'm very guarded about my phone number or my address or things like that. But at the same time, this is a house that's on the National Historical Registry. Now, we will be moving at some time soon, and at that point I will not be sharing my particular address, but we may be looking at getting a post office box at that point where we can communicate back and forth with people. But in a way that's kind of silencing me, because I've always had this channel to be open and to share with others and to teach others. And for me, when you get to a point of where you can't share your address, you can't be open to people coming to see you or to learn from you, then that is kind of closing down that communication. So I'm not real sure that there's, like I said, a resolution to that. I think you have to do as much as you feel comfortable with. Now, as far as a footprint, and I'm looking at some notes here because I tried to write down and be a little bit more cohesive on my notes. Otherwise, to be honest, my thoughts can be a little bit all over the place. And I'm not particularly the best in the world, even though I have a YouTube channel, of being in front of the camera, because most of the time you see me behind the camera, or not really see me, but I'm behind the camera filming and talking, but not really in front of the camera. So this is one of those rare incidences or instances where you can see me in front of the camera. And as far as your footprint is concerned, that is a difficult one, because I used to work in a particular place where information was collected and kept about people. And I don't care how much you try to hide particularly what your information is, it's always possible for information to get out. So that one, just, it's a difficult one, especially if you're a YouTube creator, if you have your presence across the internet, if you have social media, things like that. It's very difficult to do. Now, of course, there are ways that you can keep your privacy, and the only ways that those can be invaded or supposed to be invaded is by a subpoena through a court. But even that is not 100% guaranteed. I used to work also for a cell phone company, and that cell phone company had information that was leaked out all over the place, and it's very possible to get information. So that's a difficult one. And as far as that goes right back into your privacy, it's very difficult to maintain privacy. But anyway, this video, even though it's kind of rambling all over the place, is just to say that I am against cyberbullying. I've actually been subject to bullying, regular bullying in my real life, offline, throughout my life. I think I don't want to say that it's obvious that there are things about me that would be bullied, but I will say that when you do not look like, act like, or have the, I guess, similarities with everyone else out there in the world and I won't say the word normal, that are normal, because no one is actually normal. Everyone has the unique things about them. But I guess what the typical society idea of normal is, if you are outside of that, then you are a target. And I was a target. I have always been a target because I've always been a little bit outside of the society idea of normal. I had a family that was in a music band that traveled all over the country, that I have been on front pages of newspapers, that I've been in interviews, that I've been on the radio, that I've been here, there, and everywhere. And even though I do not personally play music, I chose not to play music because I saw what my family went through with publicity. And it's not that they were super, super, super famous, but they are kind of known all across the United States. I saw my mother, she had a stalker that would show up at different venues that she was at, that actually tried to grab her, that she had a piece of her hair cut one time, that people that just wanted to touch her clothes. Same for my dad, women that would come on to my dad, and he would be standing right next to his wife, my mom. So I've seen those aspects of publicity, and I don't understand why some people just do not understand or know not to cross boundaries. And some people, for some reason, just do not have that understanding of boundaries not to cross them. And I'm sure that just about everyone out there in the world can be guilty of that in some aspect of their existence and their lives throughout their travels or whatever. Even I have been guilty of that. I personally have not really an issue with boundaries, but with, like I said, freedom of speech. I'm all about that. So sometimes I may come across as offensive, or that I'm just too brazen, or just anything. I've had that said to me before. I've had people say to me that I was intimidating because I would just speak whatever's on my mind. So in that way, I kind of think of it as like I don't have a filter. So I have to be really careful about how I come across with my YouTube channel. And throughout my life, I've tried to fix or correct or change that aspect of me. But in the end, you really want to be your authentic self. You hear that a lot in modern society now. People want to find their authentic self. So I think for me, throughout my life, I've always been my authentic self. And I'm not sure how to turn that off sometimes, to put a filter on me. And in some ways, I don't really want to put a filter on me. I think that we don't say enough at times, that we don't approach subjects that we should, such as cyberbullying. And that's one of the things that that channel was speaking about, was that no one wants to talk about it. because they fear if they talk about it that that's just going to bring more of it to them. And that's what you hear. Like if you ask for advice from someone about how do I handle a cyberbullying situation, or how do I handle trolls on Facebook or on Instagram or something like that, I have found that 9 times out of 10, if you ask that kind of question, you're going to get the response of, oh, just ignore them. If you ignore them, they'll go away. Sometimes they don't. So I will say that. Sometimes they do not. They will just keep going. So in the end, what I used to ask my dad is, what do you do when someone doesn't stop because you ignore them? And he said, sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. And that's the same with bullying. With real life, offline bullying, like when I was in school, in high school and things like that, I would be bullied for all kinds of things. I would be bullied because of my hair. I would be bullied because I have a high forehead. I would be bullied because I have a condition in my eye called amblyopia, which makes one of my eyes, it's a severe lazy eye. And you can see it if you really pay attention to it. I have an eye that is very lazy. And that's not anything I can do about it. It is a structural problem with the eye, and it's not able to be fixed. I cannot have a surgery, anything to fix that. It will be the same. So I've had to learn how to deal with that. However, other people don't understand how to deal with that. They don't understand that you may have a condition. They are looking at you from just purely the outside aspect only, without any regards to how something may affect you. So I dealt with a lot of bullying in school, mostly in my elementary years, not really so much in high school, because throughout my elementary years, I did not know how to handle the bullying, and a lot of times I would be fearful and I would run away from it. And then when I became a high schooler, at some point I snapped. I'll admit that I was one of the people that snapped. And when I snapped, I actually caused someone to quit school. And that always made me feel very bad that I did that I let my emotions take over. However, when I did that, the bullying stopped. So I'm not saying that that's the answer to everything. Obviously, fighting is not an answer. But sometimes you are put in a position where you have to. And that's probably not something that some people want to hear. But that's reality. That's the way reality is. And there's just some people that will not stop. And it kind of goes along. At the same time, I could give the example of the No Child Left Behind policy in schools. And unfortunately, there are children, no matter what you do, how you help them, materials that you provide them, that do not want to learn and will not learn. For whatever reason that may be, there are, and I had a couple of classmates that were like that just would not. They did not have a bad home life. They were not overly spoiled. They were not catered to, but yet they just did not want to learn school. My brother was one of them. My brother never wanted to read. And he basically went through his entire elementary and high school years with nothing more than a second grade reading level, because he just would not. He hated reading, and there was no amount of materials that could fix that. And later on in life, he has found out that learning to read a little bit better was more helpful to him. So at least he came back around to it, but there's just some kids that won't. So anyway, to get back to the cyberbullying yet again, I would hope that someone that does participate in cyberbullying that is watching this, or has watched some of the other channels that have made response videos, will think twice before saying something through their comments, typing something and hurting someone, being offensive to someone, stalking someone, harassing someone. That it will stop. That you stop. Please stop. Because eventually they will be caught. And, you don't want to sit the rest of your life in prison. And a lot of states have different rules about that, or how long you would end up being in prison for that. But eventually they'll be caught. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say on this video. I apologize that it was a little bit long, but I didn't know whether to say anything or not. At first I was kind of like, no, I don't really want to say anything because I don't know what the reaction would be. So I hope that this helps a little bit, or that it just helps listening to someone else and their comments, their opinions about it. And anyway, that's my video for today. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to see notices on new videos as they come out. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Maybe with a little bit more of an answer on where we're going to go. So see you in the next one.